All right, friends, welcome to this special edition of the 13-Minute News Hour. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tonight, we are hearing from 3 countywide candidates who are making their run in Fort Bend County, Texas. We will hear from Marshall Slott, who's running for sheriff, Jaison Joseph, who's running for Tax Assessor-Collector, and Edward Krenek, running for the 400th District Court. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-Minute News Hour.
God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to this special edition of the 13-Minute News Hour. Thank you so much for tuning in. As I mentioned, we are holding something new over here. There's been a lot of candidate forums, a lot of chances to meet these candidates in person, but now we're taking time from the 13-Minute News Hour to give you a special online version. If you can't get out of your schedule, if you're home with family, this gives you the opportunity to learn from our great candidates. And I'm so excited tonight. Again, we're hearing from Marshall Slott, Jaison Joseph, Ed Krenek, all of our 3 main countywide candidates coming to you, talking about their policies, their positions, and introducing themselves to you if you hadn't had a chance before. So what we're going to do first is we're going to bring on Marshall Slott, who's running for county sheriff. Marshall, thanks so much for joining.
Hey, thanks, Bobby. Appreciate you guys giving us this opportunity, you and your staff members that are here helping us out today.
Absolutely. So the first part of the forum, for those watching at home, we're going to give the candidates 3 to 5 minutes, however they want, just to introduce themselves. Because we're online, because we don't have the pressures of a room reservation or anything like that, we want this to be a little more relaxed, have a little fun, and really get to know people. So Marshall, the podium is yours. Let us know all about Marshall Slott.
So it all started, no, just kidding. Good afternoon, good evening. Howdy, wherever you guys are. My name is Marshall Slott, and I'm running for sheriff here in Fort Bend County, Texas. A few things about me, who I am. I'm a 3rd-generation Fort Bend County resident. I'm really proud of my grandparents who moved here in the 50s with my mom. My mom grew up here and actually went to high school where I went to elementary school. It's kind of a unique system here in Sugar Land. I was born and raised here, 3rd-generation Fort Bend County resident. Just love Fort Bend County. It is my home. I've been very fortunate to raise my family here as well. I have 3 grown kids and 2 beautiful grandbabies, and I've been married to my wife, Cheryl, for over 31 years now. I have a hard time counting that high sometimes, but over 31 years. So it's truly a blessed man. I'm a servant leader. I'm a servant to our community. I've been that my entire life. I started as a lifeguard at the age of 16, protecting people, and have been protecting people my entire life. I'm 53 years old now. I have over 3 decades of law enforcement experience, with 25 of those years protecting and serving here in Fort Bend County. I worked for the Alvin Police Department, which is where I started my career. A smaller agency that really focused on community-oriented policing. Before that term really came into parlance, it just was a great organization, but it was very small. I was a young man and looking to expand my horizons. So after 3 years of service at the Alvin Police Department, I went to the Houston Police Department, which was a great training ground for me. I feel I was there for 3 years, but I feel like I had 6 years of experience in those 3 years. Really a big organization with lots of business, lots of different directions. But it was almost too big. So small agency, I felt like a big fish in a small pond down in Alvin. And then when I went to Houston, I felt more like an amoeba in an ocean. It's just a massive agency. And I really didn't feel like I was serving the community. So I came back home to the Sugar Land Police Department, where I spent the bulk of my career and my full-time career in law enforcement. 11 plus years at Sugar Land Police Department. I did everything from patrol, investigations of all types of crimes, all the way up into including capital murder and other murder cases. I spent 3 years forming and shaping a multi-jurisdictional task force. I was selected by police chiefs and sheriffs to select the team members and to run that task force, which really dealt with street crimes and gangs and narcotics and guns, getting them off the street. I was a really blessed man to be able to work in those environments with those leaders as well, because they really shaped me as a leader answering to a sheriff and 4 police chiefs is not an easy task for anybody. Having 5 bosses is a little challenging at times. So I really learned how to make sure that we were hitting on all cylinders and answering and dealing with all of their concerns. I was recruited to go into corporate security after 17 years of law enforcement. I worked corporate security advisor as an influential security leader in a multinational oil company right now. So I've been there for 16 years full time. But when I stepped away from law enforcement full time, I just missed the service component. So I came back and volunteered with the sheriff's office for the last 10 and a half years as a non-paid volunteer as a single man patrol unit going out and fighting crime in Fort Bend County. It was really an interesting perspective, stepping away from it for a time as a leader in law enforcement and then coming back on the ground, boots on the ground where the rubber meets the road to serve and protect our community. And it gave me a really an expanded perspective on how to serve the community and meet the people's needs right where they are. I believe it's that my law enforcement career and my business career, and when you blend those two together, it just gives me a breadth and depth of knowledge on both law enforcement and functioning an organization. I think that makes me an ideal candidate to serve you and protect Fort Bend County as a Fort Bend County Sheriff. So, Bobby, I appreciate the time to introduce myself. Looking forward to your questions.
All right. Thanks a lot, Marshall. Yeah, so much. And friends, so you got to hear there from Marshall Slott. We're going to bring up Jaison Joseph in just a bit, but great background, great story. I've gotten to know him quite a bit during this election cycle. You kind of get to know everybody as you know, the time crunch kicks in and you're closer and closer to election day. We're seeing a lot of these people. And so it's always helpful to actually like them. And Marshall is a good guy. So I think Jaison Joseph is ready. And no, he's not. So we'll wait for it. There he is. Yes. Hey, Jaison, thanks for joining today and participating in the forum.
Thank you, Bobby, for the invitation, and thank you for this great platform that you're giving to us.
Absolutely. So the floor is yours. If you want to just, you know, again, let people know kind of what got you into this, your background mostly, because we'll get into issues during the questions. But who is Jaison Joseph?
Well, as you said, mentioned my name. I am Jaison Joseph, running for Tax Assessor-Collector for Fort Bend County. So I live in Fort Bend County for last 15 years, and I'm married to my wife for the last 25 years. I do have three kids, 3 boys, and the oldest one is in college. The second 2 of them are in high school, and I do attend the church here in Stafford, and I live with my parents. They are upstairs living with me. That's my family. And I work for a corporation here in Atlanta. So I work from home here in Houston for last 23 years. I'm working for the same employer. And my education is economics and information technology. And I worked in the same field for more than 2 decades. And I acquired tremendous experience and expertise in the technology and innovation in my career. So I just wanted to give back to the people. So I decided to run for an office and implement the efficiency back into the office. That's where we are. And I'm actively involved in the Fort Bend GOP for the last many years. I ran 2 other elections and I learned so many things from that. And I made lifelong friendship through our GOP good friends. So as many people ask, how come I'm actually not as an immigrant, how can you be included into the GOP? So I'm grateful for the welcoming and inclusion for the party showed us, and I'm grateful to be as a public servant to serve the people in Fort Bend. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Jaison. I'm looking forward to getting into the questions a lot more. Friends, that's Jaison Joseph, who's running for Tax Assessor-Collector. He is, I mean, he's a great candidate now, but just to let you know, he has been a stellar grassroots guy. I mean, he's been out there volunteering anything we need, whether it's disaster relief, whether it's food drives, whether it's block walking, anything. And then on the technical side, he's been out there going above and beyond to help people to get our conservative message out, but help the party and help his neighbor. He's always been available. So now we're going to turn it over to Ed Krenek, who's ready to go. Ed's also a good friend, and he's running for judge. So we've got law enforcement, we've got our tax assessor, and now we've got our judicial candidate. Ed, thanks for joining tonight.
Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate being here and appreciate the opportunity to be able to communicate with all the great constituents here in Fort Bend County.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been quite a ride. So I'm going to turn the podium over to you. Give us some background on Ed Krenek.
Thank you, Bobby. Yeah, as Bobby mentioned, my name is Edward Krenek. I'm running for the 400 District Court. I'm the candidate for positive change for our court system. Let me tell you a little bit about what's been happening at the courts and a little bit about my background. In light of what we've seen happening over the last few years, we've had a little bit of a crisis in confidence in our court system. A lot of people don't believe that our court system is functioning as well as it should be doing. I am a builder. I believe in positive change, and I believe that there's a better way we can handle our court systems, move our criminal cases, move our civil cases, and effectuate justice. A little bit about me. I was born and raised here in Fort Bend County. My father worked for Fort Bend County. I've been a Fort Bend County resident for most of my life. I believe in Fort Bend County. I went to Texas A&M University and got a BBA, graduated summa cum laude in accounting. I then went to work for at that point in time, one of the big 8 public accounting firms known as Ernst & Winnie. Now it's known as Ernst & Young. I've got my CPA license, which I still hold to today. I then went to the University of Texas School of Law, graduated in 1988 with honors. And since that point in time, I've been a seasoned trial attorney practicing law here in Fort Bend County and surrounding areas for 35 years. In addition, I hold 2 board certifications. Let me tell you a little bit about what that means. In order to have one board certification, you have to be vetted by your peers, pass an exam, and then hold a certain specialty and try a certain number of cases, significant cases in that area of expertise. I've been board certified in consumer and commercial law since 1996 and board certified in personal injury trial law since 1999. I've tried a lot of cases, and both of a criminal nature and civil. My particular expertise is in civil law. Right now, I believe that there's better ways we can maneuver cases through our court system. If you're in the system too long, you've already lost. I believe that there's more innovative ways. Every taxpayer, every citizen in Fort Bend County deserves a court, a judicial system, and judges that work harder, smarter, embrace technology, come up with innovative ways to get our cases moving, hold down litigation costs, and get to the end zone so that justice can finally be served. I believe in protecting people's constitutional and due process rights. I believe that everyone deserves a level playing field and that justice truly is blind, and that includes being colorblind, national origin blind, blind to every circumstance here with the diversity we have in Fort Bend County, which is tremendous. We should embrace that diversity, and we should ensure, at least at our judicial level, that everyone has a level playing field. Everyone believes in and has confidence in our court system that they'll be treated fairly and that their constitutional and due process rights will be protected. And as your candidate and as your judge of this court, I will endeavor and prioritize making sure that those basic precepts are always met. Bobby, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak here. I look forward to this upcoming final 2.5 weeks until Election Day.
Thanks, Ed. I really appreciate it. Friends, that's Ed Krenek. And now you've got some background on our candidates. We're going to go to the question and answer. And we had a number of questions put in advance. If you're watching and want to try and get a question in on the YouTube chat, please feel free to do so. We've already gotten one. I've written it down, and hopefully we'll get to it. But we're going to bring Marshall Slott back up to answer some questions. And Marshall, let's jump right into it, because with the sheriff's race and the office of sheriff, I always think of chasing bad guys and go ahead, make my day type of thing. Even though I believe he was a detective, but so what does the sheriff do in the modern? This isn't the Wild West. So can you give us some background on just like the office of the sheriff and what it does?
Yeah, the sheriff is a constitutionally driven office by the Texas Constitution. The sheriff has 3 primary functions. The first is to run an efficient and effective and safe county jail for holding the prisoners who are arrested and also housing prisoners on a pretrial basis and then post-trial after they're convicted on county level offenses, and oftentimes before they're transferred to the Texas prison system on felony offenses. So the sheriff's first and foremost, the sheriff runs the jail. The second primary responsibility of the sheriff is to police the unincorporated areas of Fort Bend County and work in partnership with the municipal agencies and other county law enforcement agencies to keep Fort Bend County safe. It shouldn't be viewed as one agency does one thing and one agency does another. A lot of people are confused by the different offices, but the sheriff is responsible for those two primary functions. And under that, the third is securing the district and county courts and providing, the courthouse that Ed Krenek is going to practice in, making sure that the judges are safe, making sure that folks who are coming to testify are safe. Those are the three primary functions of the sheriff. But I want to make it clear that the sheriff works with all of Fort Bend County law enforcement. It's been said that the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer in any county. Yes, that's true, but I never want to lead from that perspective. I really look at law enforcement as a holistic approach to securing the safety of our community. No one entity can do that alone. So it's a partnership with our other state, local, and even when necessary, the federal organizations to make sure our county's safe.
Well, I appreciate that background. So you mentioned something interesting. It's a constitutionally established position. You run for it, and this is what kind of intrigues me, because as people learned in your intro, you have this decades-long experience in law enforcement. There's a lot of ways to serve the community in law enforcement, and you're taking that now. But something must have changed, right? Something happened to you to say, okay, well, rather than this position or this position, I'm going to jump into that crazy world of politics and run for sheriff. So what was involved in that decision, in deciding to go for it?
So it's a great question, Bobby. Like I said, I went from leading a countywide investigative task force, stepped out of law enforcement for a brief period of time, and got back in it on the road as a patrol deputy. I worked with and under Sheriff Milton Wright. I worked with and under Sheriff Troy Nels, and I've worked with and under our current sheriff. Under Sheriff Wright and under Sheriff Nels, our agency was fully staffed and ran efficiently and effectively. There's no perfect sheriff. Everybody had their strengths and weaknesses, but the agency served our community and kept it safe. When the current sheriff took office in 2021, the sheriff's office was almost fully staffed. Those positions that weren't filled were negligible. And I was there when he took office, and it took him 6 months to just form his command staff and get up and running. Between that time and June 2023, I watched him drive this agency off a cliff. He and the individuals he surrounded himself with in a command staff just tore the inside of the agency apart. We're now 160 deputies short. 55 of those positions are in the jail. And if you go back to July 9th, he mentioned that he was failing to run the jail. He didn't say those words, but what he said to the commissioner's court was that I'm failing to run the jail. I need a bigger budget and I need more people, and you guys need to do that for me. Well, that's his responsibility, is to manage the budget he was given and to make sure he's recruiting and retaining the right people to function the jail efficiently and effectively. But let's take it back farther. When I saw that the agency was not functioning appropriately all the way back in June of 23, I went to a few folks who I'd worked with and asked them if they would run. I thought there were a few good individuals to run for sheriff, and nobody would get in the race. And it truly hurt my heart for the people that I was working with. Watching these deputies go in and day out, fight crime on the streets or attempt to, and not being supported by the administration. He's ripped this place apart from the inside. And so the primary reason I'm running is to fix the inside of this agency so that we can better serve and protect on the outside of the agency. That's got to happen. So to those folks out in the county and in our community, you don't see the minutia that goes on behind the scenes, but the sheriff's office is not functioning well. It's barely functioning. And so we need a leader to get in there and take it by the reins and look out for the deputies first, repair the problems that have been created, and then start empowering our deputies to get out there and actually fight crime, protect our community, serve our community, and ultimately make it safer for everybody.
That's awesome. So I want to follow up on some of the other forums, the other candidate forums that I've had the chance to go to and see you, give your stump speech and your background in these policy positions. And there were a number of them where it seemed like one of the things they were pushing or really focusing on is diversity, talking about the diversity of the workforce. And so I wanted to see, just from your perspective, how that fits into your value system and how that would fit into running the sheriff's office.
It's a great question. We live in if not one of the top most diverse counties in the country. Having been here almost my entire life, I've seen the diversity grow in this county, and I truly appreciate it. All these different perspectives make us a better community when we come together as whole. But we're Americans first, and then we bring in our cultures, our religions, our ethnicity, our backgrounds to make this county great. Our current sheriff got into office, and when he got into office, he basically said that he was focused on increasing the diversity in the command staff. And what he meant was the diversity of ethnicity and backgrounds, diversity of ethnicity and race. I disagree with that. We need diversity in this county, but what we need is diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of perspective. But you can't put qualifications and capabilities over any of the other things I mentioned formally. So it's about having diversity of thought, diversity of perspective, diversity of experience, having the right people seated at the table to make the right decisions to keep our county safer. I don't know everything. I'll tell you that right here, right now. No one person knows everything. I'm going to put together a diverse team that will approach this with diversity of thought, diversity of experience, and diversity of perspective. Some of those individuals happen to be of diverse ethnicity, but that's not the first and foremost thing I'm looking for. I'm looking at experience, qualities, perspective, and capability of leadership. First and foremost, what I'm looking to surround myself with is servant leaders. I need individuals around me, and I've identified individuals who I will approach to serve and empower the folks below them, beneath them in the organizational structure, to serve those beneath them, to serve those beneath them, all the way down to the line personnel, both civilian and sworn personnel. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, those people delivering the services to our community are servant leaders, and they are leaders in our community, and they need to be empowered to do that. That's not happening right now. So I'm going to fix that.
Okay. Well, that's great. And that's probably one of the best diversity answers that I've heard, because so many times the Democrats, just to interject a little commentary, since it is my show, but they always talk about diversity of everything except thought. As long as you fall in line, as long as you subjugate yourself to a certain doctrine or agenda, then you're fine. But you deviate from that and think from yourself, and you're in trouble. But I want to move on to the issue of crime, because that was a major issue 2 years ago. It's an issue this election cycle in polling. It's the economy, border, and crime. So what kind of trends do you see in Fort Bend County, and how would you address that as sheriff?
So we're fortunate on one level in Fort Bend County, but unfortunate in another. Crime is trending upward. It's not as bad as it could be, and I don't want to lie to the community. I don't want to put out a false perception. There was a study done last year through the district attorney's office who commissioned it. So certain crimes are down, but property crimes are up and increasing. And just this year, there's been now 15 murders. There was just one last night. There have been 15 murders in Fort Bend County, which is a huge increase over the number last year. I don't have the exact number, but it's many more than occurred last year. I want to say it's 5, but don't quote me on that last year. So crime is trending upwards. We have this big monster just to the northeast of us here in Fort Bend County, Harris County. And the goofiness that's going on up there in their criminal justice system with some of their judges, and the amount of crime that's increased up there is huge. It's just tremendous. We need to protect Fort Bend County from that coming into Fort Bend County, because unfortunately we've got enough crooks here already, enough folks who are bad actors here, and so we've got enough to deal with here. So basically, we need to try and build a wall between Fort Bend County and Harris County criminals so we can deal with our homegrown crime, which again is property crimes are increasing and homicides have increased significantly this year.
All right. Well, I want to wrap up with this, and this is actually, I had a question for you, but it ties in great with a question we got online, and the lead into it is the problems that Sheriff Fagan has gotten into for violating constitutional rights, First Amendment rights, kicking reporters out of events. And online from Matt Chavez, we had, will you be a constitutional sheriff, and how would you accomplish this?
So Short answer is yes, constitutional sheriff. I'll protect you from invasions on your treading on your constitutional rights. Let me bring this to a realistic situation here. During COVID, we had county judges in Fort Bend County, the county judge in Fort Bend County issuing regulations about closing down businesses, when you could travel, when you could worship. That's treading on your First Amendment rights. Pursuit of happiness for your businesses and freedom of religion, to be able to practice your religion. I'll be there to open the doors if that order is ever issued. I'll be there to open the doors of your church to allow you, to facilitate you worshiping, because I firmly believe that you should be able to live, work, worship, and play in Fort Bend County in such a way that you get to exercise your constitutional rights all the time. When you start dealing with the constitutional issues on the border, those sheriffs that are down there dealing with criminals coming across the border, that's a heavy load. And I'll work appropriately here in Fort Bend County to make sure that we address those illegal immigrants, not legal immigrants. I'm pro-legal immigration. I'm a second-generation immigrant. I'm so proud of my grandparents' heritage coming from Holland. But I want to blend those two together. So protecting your constitutional rights in the community, and then making sure that those who are here legally, their constitutional rights are protected as well.
Well, Marshall, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for those responses. I think that really helped educate the audience. And friends, again, thank you so much for tuning in to this special edition of the 13-Minute News Hour. I'm a national issues guy by nature, but we're going local this time because I'm also the chairman of the Fort Bend County Republican Party. So this gives us a chance to dive a little deeper into these local candidates. So we had 5 questions for Marshall. And the rest of the format, we tried to come up with 5 questions for each of our candidates. So we're going to bring Jaison Joseph back up here. Jaison, thanks again for participating, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to start off with a similar question to what we had with Marshall, and that is, whenever I think of the tax assessor, I think of this guy from like Robin Hood's time with this hood, and he's going over to a house to grab some bag of silver or something. So in Fort Bend County, what does the tax assessor actually do?
The Fort Bend County tax assessors collect the taxes, assess the properties, and are responsible for election integrity and distributing those funds to the appropriate agencies. That is the main task or the responsibility or duties for the tax assessor's office. So for the Fort Bend County residents, this means that the office is vital in ensuring that everyone pays their fair share based on the property value, which helps to fund essential services and benefits for all of us. We also provide transparency into the tax process, offer resources to the residents to understand their assessment, and assist to those who may have questions or concerns. Ultimately, our goal is to support the community by ensuring the tax system is fair, efficient, and responsive to the needs of our residents. That is actually the main duties of the Tax Assessor-Collector's office.
Well, okay, so based on that then, one of the things that we always talk about, and we see this for statewide offices, we see this for state rep, we see this locally in the county, is property taxes. How those affect everyone's daily lives. So through the Office of Tax Assessor-Collector, what can be done about those property taxes?
Yeah, addressing the concern about the property tax increase is a top priority for me. Not only for me, and every citizen's is worried about the rising property taxes. First, I plan to enhance the transparency in the assessment process, ensuring the residents understood how their property values are determined. This includes hosting an informational sessions and providing easy to understand resources online. Today, we don't have that available now. I will also advocate for fair and consistent assessment practices to prevent unjustified increase by collaborating with the local government and the community organizations. My goal is to identify and address the root cause of rising property values, including market trends and the development pressures. So we know that we are actually the fast growing county in the state of Texas. We have a lot of people are moving from different states and different parts of the United States. So we need to assess what would be the criteria to assess the increase the property values and what is the pressures that on the governmental entities to developments. So that's one thing. And additionally, I will work to ensure that the residents are aware of their rights and the appeal process if they believe their assessment are too high. It is important that we have foster our communication and build the trust so residents feel heard and supported in the navigating these challenges. My goal is to make the tax process as fair and transparent as possible for everyone in the Fort Bend County, not only the citizens and for the businesses as well.
All right, I want to follow up with a question similar to Marshall, because it's worth asking because of the county that we live in and because of the way the Democrats push issues such as diversity. And you are part of this Republican ticket, this Republican slate. And I mean, we have men, women, Christian, Muslim, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. How do you contrast the arch slate in general or in diversity overall with how the Democrats view diversity in this county?
So I feel blessed to be part of this GOP Fort Bend. I tell you the truth. I always highlighted I belongs to the Fort Bend GOP. I'm always proud of it. So the diversity among the Republican candidates in the Fort Bend County is a significant strength and reflects the true fabrics of our community. It shows that our party is inclusive and values different perspectives, background, and experience. This variety allows us to better understand and address the needs of all the residents, fostering collaboration and unity. In contrast, while Democrats often emphasize diversity, it is important to see how that diversity translates into leadership and the representation. Our Republican slate demonstrates a commitment to the actionable inclusivity, focusing on solutions that resonate with the people from all walks of life, rather than merely talking about diversity for its own sake. This diverse representation allows us to engage with the broader audience and work towards the policies that benefit everyone in the Fort Bend County. Ultimately, it's about bringing people together to solve issues collaboratively and ensuring that every voice is heard and the decision-making process. That's the strength of our GOP Fort Bend that I have seen so far.
All right. Regarding priorities now, the priorities that you mentioned it a little bit in your background, but I'd like you to touch on that again, your priorities for the office, but also contrast that with having a Democrat in there. You know, legislatively, at least, you know, when I'm focusing on national issues, it's a lot easier to talk about how there's a difference between having a Republican in there and a Democrat, what they're going to do as far as all sorts of different issues. But what are your top priorities, and how do you contrast that with you coming as a Republican and how that changes the nature of the office?
Yeah, having a Republican in the office is important because our party emphasizes fiscal responsibility, limited government, and a commitment to the transparency. These values align with the goals of ensuring the taxpayers' dollars are used effectively and the residents have a voice in how their tax dollars are spent. A Republican approach often focuses on empowering individuals and communities rather than expanding government's control on its citizens, which can lead to a better outcome for residents in the Fort Bend County. My top priorities are fair property assessment and enhancing customer service, community engagement. I believe in an actively engaging with the community through the outreach program, educational workshop, and the forums. This will ensure the residents are completely informed and their tax obligations and why we pay the tax and what is actually going on in the tax assessment process. This is very much needed in this day and age. And the fair property assessment, ensuring the property values are assessed accurately and transparently. It is crucial as well. This protects homeowners from unfair tax burdens and help maintain the integrity of our tax system. Then,
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Jason. And one last question for you
one more point
is,
to it.
when we have, there's kind of a cloud around some of the officials here in Fort Bend County, and namely our current tax assessor collector who pled guilty to contempt in a bankruptcy fraud case. How does that affect the politics in general, but as far as people doing business in Fort Bend County?
So it's very sad that we see the most of the Democrats elected officials are going through a tough time right now. This is not good for the county. So the integrity of our elected officials is crucial for building trust within the community. When there are allegations or legal issues involving public figures, it can create a cloud of doubt and uncertainty, impacting how residents view their local governments. In Fort Bend County, maintaining transparency and accountability is essential for fostering a positive relationship between officials and constituents. My opponent's guilty plea to a bankruptcy fraud raises serious concerns about ethical standards and judgment in office. Such actions can undermine the public trust and affect the way the county conducts business daily basis, potentially leading to skepticism about decisions made by elected officials. In contrast, I believe in upholding the highest ethical standards and ensuring that our office operates with integrity. If elected, I will prioritize transparency, ethical governance, and open communication with the community to restore confidence in our leadership. It's important for Fort Bend County to have representatives who are committed to serving the public interest, maintaining the trust of the residents we serve. That's where I stand.
Hey, Jason, one last question we got from Paul Britt online, online question submitted. Since you are running for Tax Assessor-Collector, how do you define fair share?
As I mentioned earlier, we need to look at the multiple angles of why the tax assessment is actually going up and up. There is no cap. There is no limit. There is nothing there to control the appraisal board to increase their prices. We need to look into the different aspects of it. So based on that, we can define it.
All right, very good. Thanks so much, Jason. I really appreciate it. We're going to move on to Ed Krenek in just a second, but I have to give a special shout out to Snurdy on the online chat who gave us $100 in our super chat. So thanks so much, Snurdy, and you've been a loyal viewer for a long, long time, and really appreciate all your support and all that you do to help me out behind the scenes. He's kind of our web guy and go-to guru. But thank you so much for the support, and everyone who's on the chat tonight for submitting these questions. Those who submitted online, just really appreciate it. It really makes the forum what it is. So now I'm going to bring up Ed Krenek. Ed, again, thanks for participating. And I want to dive into, we'll start off the same way that we did before. There's a number of different courts, even in the court system. I mean, you're running for the 400th District Court. It encompasses all of Fort Bend, yet it's not one of the county courts. So can you kind of describe the differences and what this court actually does?
Great question. I get asked that a lot on the campaign trail. In Fort Bend County, we have 6 county courts at law. County courts at law handle the misdemeanors on down and certain civil cases up to $200,000 in jurisdiction in value. There's 5 district courts that handle criminal and civil matters. Separating that out from the family law courts, those 5 courts handle both criminal felonies on up and civil matters of unlimited jurisdiction. So in Fort Bend County, of those 5 courts, we have 4 of those courts with judges that have primary, before taking the bench, criminal experience as a prosecutor. At this point in time, we don't have many judges, if any, that primarily specialize in civil law. So what has happened over time in the district courts is a lot of our civil cases tend to languish. And in particular, in the 400th court, we have a backlog of civil cases that need particular attention by someone that has the expertise to move the cases, to handle and push the cases through trial, but at the same time, ensure fair, effective justice is provided to every litigant.
All right. Well, that helps out a lot because again, there's so many, and I know people get confused, and we need to highlight the importance of this particular court. I want to move on to not necessarily judicial philosophy because, it's well known that, Democrats approach things a different way. Republicans often run on being a constitutional type of judge. But I want to get into a different side of being a judge, and that is running the court. And so how would you describe what it means to have a Republican in there, in your court in particular, but Democrat run courts in general, on how things are run efficiency and what you would do?
Great question. We have two different sides that we have to look at here. On the criminal side, there's some judges that have a mentality of being a little bit lax on bail, for example, or maybe not being as enforcing of the laws when it comes to some of the criminal side of it. What we need is judges that are constitutionally based. What that means is they provide all the constitutional due process rights. They follow the Constitution, but when there is a violation of law of some sort and found to be guilty by, for example, a jury, we have to enforce the laws. We have to look out for the other side of what happens in any crime. When I talk to a lot of people at forums, we talk about, we have to be tough on crime, and I believe we need to be firm but fair on crime. A little bit different philosophy. Firm in that we have to recognize that there's a flip side to every crime that's committed. You have the accused, and they're entitled to every bit of their due process constitutional rights. And I'm a firm believer in that. But you also have the flip side of the victims and the victim's family and public safety. So when you look at any issue of bail, for example, you have to weigh those factors in determining, look, is this a repeat incident? Is this one of the crimes that doesn't allow certain types of PR bail? Instead, it requires a money type of bail. You have to recognize that every time that someone is placed back out on the streets, that there may be a harm done to more victims or to the public. So you weigh that and determine how best to effectuate justice firmly and fairly. On the civil side, we have courts that really, in particular the 400 court, if you don't have the experience on how to try these cases and maneuver them, you have cases that languish in these courts. Let me tell you what I mean by that. There's some philosophies that just kick the case down the road. You're not doing justice to our citizens. You're not doing justice to the litigants if you don't have the ability to move the cases forward, to bring that case to trial, and to get a conclusion. Litigants who are in the system too long have lost. Litigation is extremely expensive. So for me, I believe that we are doing a better service to the public and to litigants by being able to maneuver the cases, push the cases to trial, find ways to be innovative on how we move the cases through the discovery process, and ultimately create that scenario where people build up confidence that our judicial system is working again.
All right. So once you get in and you address this from your kind of legal perspective, you address this from an organizational perspective, what are going to be your top priorities as judge?
Top priorities. First off, I'll come in and evaluate where we sit on our case dockets. I think that there's going to be cases that are very old that need a judge to give a fresh look at it, and then move those cases through by either setting them for status conferences with the attorneys or setting them for trial. One of the tactics that have been used in the past to make numbers look better for a particular court's docket is just to dismiss cases wholesale a bunch at a time. That's not doing justice. That's not proper management of your court docket. So my priority is to, number one, analyze and assess where we sit with all of our cases. Number two, we need to figure out ways to be innovative in techniques on how we streamline litigation, how we give the opportunities to litigants, particularly those with modest judicial resources. How do we provide them opportunities to get their day in court without really getting wiped out on the discovery side? Let me tell you what I mean by that. In civil cases, some of your most expensive part of that litigation is the discovery phase. Discovery is all the pretrial stuff where you learn about the other side's cases through written interrogatories and document requests and taking depositions. But if you spend too much time doing that, or if one side has more judicial resources than the other, it becomes an imbalance. And it almost prevents parties with very modest means being able to get to their day in court. There are ways to streamline it. One example is, look, instead of briefing fully a motion to compel or a discovery dispute, send me a 2-page letter. I'll have a pretty good idea from my trial experience and my expertise on how best to get to the end zone on that discovery issue so that we can get that case to trial a little bit quicker, but yet providing both sides a fair opportunity to conduct that discovery. So there are ways we can streamline the discovery process. And thirdly, there are ways that we can ultimately get people confidence in the system so that when they step foot in a courtroom, they're not concerned about not having a level playing field. They're not concerned that there's a judge who might have a bias or a prejudice. And by doing all those and setting the example, setting the bar high, and good old-fashioned elbow grease, rolling up my sleeves and working long, hard hours, I think we can move the cases in a better way, in a way that the citizens deserve compared to what's happening right now.
Ed, I'd like to go back in time for just a little bit. You know, you've been out there on the campaign trail. You were, if our viewers don't realize, Ed was one of our candidates in 2022. And I just want to kind of, again, bringing it into that personal realm, what was that experience like, and how has that made you a better candidate this time around?
Wow, Bobby, that experience was invaluable. I learned a tremendous amount just through going through the process, getting that name recognition out, and doing a little bit of messaging. And I also learned what people really want and what concerns them the most about our judicial system. And through that process, I've been able to better understand, better develop innovative techniques that will resolve the very issues and concerns the people are bringing up when we talk about these topics. So it's been incredibly invaluable to have that first go at it. Now, it's never good not to win, but the experience has been invaluable. The second thing I've learned, though, and what I'm feeling is I'm energized about this race. I'm energized because there are so many people that are rising up and helping. You know, they say it takes a village to raise anything. It takes a village for any candidate to be successful. And I am so thankful for what the party is doing, for what the constituents are doing, from block walking, from messaging, from really getting out what we stand for as candidates and what we believe in and why we believe that this party, and in me in particular myself, why I'm the best candidate to help address the issues and concerns people have about our judicial system, but also to best maneuver and effectuate justice for the public.
Ed, I want to wrap up with this because, you know, again, we've had a number of these candidate forums. You've participated in so many of them in all parts of the county, and people that should be put that down as a check mark for Ed as far as a credit to his campaign and willing to go anywhere. But I want to bring this up to the viewers, and I want to get your reaction, Ed. Is there was a forum almost about 2 weeks ago in which your opponent, the sitting Democrat judge, Tamika Carter, basically told a predominantly black audience that Republicans top to bottom, when they talk about being tough on crime, that's somehow some kind of code word for locking up as many black people as possible. This is exactly what she said. When you heard that, I mean, you spoke right after her. When you heard that, what was going through your head?
I'll tell you what I was thinking about is, how do we instill confidence back in the judicial system? Because if there's people that really believe that, then we're not gaining ground or winning the battle we need to win to better our judicial system. You know, there's a reason why they say justice is blind, but I'm taking it one step further. Justice is colorblind. It's blind to national origin. It's blind to any discriminating or diversity factors, so that every person that steps into a court must have that confidence that they're going to be given a fair shake, a level playing field throughout the entirety of the process. So in my mind, when I hear statements like that, I think, well, how can we best build up our system, our judicial system, so that we instill back that confidence that people deserve and need to know that they're going to get a fair shake at trial? I also think about judicial temperament. It's very, very important that every judge not only have an appearance to avoid having an appearance of bias, but they actually cannot have an actual bias. And for me, that's paramount. We're here to effectuate justice, to ensure constitutional due process protections are there, to ensure that the rules of procedure, both civil and criminal, are properly followed, and that the law is carried out in a way that true justice can be achieved. And that only can be achieved if we're totally colorblind, totally blind to any other thing except true justice.
Well, Ed, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I appreciate your answers and everybody taking time. Friends, that's Ed Krenek. He's running for the 400th District Court. Now we're going to bring up Marshall Slott and all of our candidates for just a quick little close. But as Marshall gets ready, I want to just say once again to everybody watching, everyone coming out, submitting their questions, that it's been a real joy. I'm often live on TV doing news reports. I'll be posting one again tonight, but doing my own show live from the studio is a whole lot of fun, and I'm hoping that maybe we'll bring back the Saturday live stream, because this has been really cool. Except I definitely need to get my producer in, because this is a lot of work. Marshall, thanks again for coming. But before we get to your close, we actually had some great energy in our chat and with some online submissions. If you don't mind, there's a couple follow-up questions I'd like to pose to you. We had one from Augustine, or I'm a Catholic theologian, so I'm going to say Augustine. But it says, what are you going to do about the crime in Fort Bend ISD and the people with mental health issues?
So that's a very broad question. Let's look at Fort Bend ISD first. So we have many school districts in Fort Bend County, and each one of those, we're blessed to have a law enforcement agency that has a primary responsibility for policing in and around those schools. So I'll broaden it out more than just Fort Bend ISD. It's, again, when I spoke earlier to answer to one of my questions, it was about partnering with them where necessary. So the primary responsibility of the safety in the schools and criminal law enforcement in the schools is Fort Bend ISD or Lamar or Katy or any of the others, Needville ISD and so on. So it's about partnering with them. They have very capable individuals, very professional individuals that are good at their jobs. So that's that component. That's that answer. When you deal with mental health issues, have come to the forefront in our community. It affects inside schools. It affects outside in the community. It affects workplaces. One of the things I've been very fortunate to do in my business career is develop a workplace violence prevention and intervention program that goes hand in glove with school violence prevention and intervention. And I want to make sure that I partner with our school districts to make sure that they have fully functioning multidisciplinary teams of trained professionals from many different perspectives to address behaviors of concern in individuals in school before they become violent. It's all about interrupting that pathway to violence and keeping them from becoming violent. But unfortunately, I can't guarantee that will happen all the time. So we also need to prepare with our school districts and partner with them for that potential worst case scenario. And again, it's about partnering, using all of our resources, all of our capabilities to keep the kids in school safe, but I'll even expand that out to keep our communities safe, to keep our businesses safe. So it's a holistic approach.
All right, and one last one before we wrap up here. This one's from Paul, and he's talking about a culture change. How do you inject a needed culture change among the officers that are out there, the ones that are interacting with the citizens? How do you make that change as opposed to the culture that exists now under Democrat Sheriff Fagan?
So Paul, great question. I'm running to fix the inside of the agency. And by saying I'm running to fix the inside of the agency, I'm getting directly at the culture. That's the heart of the issue. Our deputies don't feel empowered. They don't feel led, and they don't feel encouraged to live up to their potential. You can't fight a war on two fronts. We expect them to be out in the community, protecting us and fighting against crime, trying to apprehend those bad actors in our community that are seeking to harm us. Well, you can't fight out there and fight behind you with the administration. there's been a significant number of internal affairs investigations that the number has increased dramatically since the previous sheriff and under this sheriff. For instance, around 24, 25 in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, you see the steep curve of the number of internal affairs investigations, and they're for what are administrative issues, things that can be best addressed by first-line supervisors mentoring and leading our deputies. Right now, everything goes to the chief deputy's office for an internal affairs assessment, and many of those, over 100 each of the last 2 years, for what are better handled at the first-line supervisor level. We have a young workforce at the sheriff's office, those that have chosen to remain. They need to be led and mentored and guided and trained to do a better job. They're doing a great job now, but in those instances where they have underperformed, they need to be guided back to within the ditch lines. They've gotten outside the ditch lines of our expectations, and we need to guide them back in there. In those most significant cases, we need to hold them accountable, and we will. But it's about that day-to-day interaction with our community. We need to be servant leaders in our community, apply compassion and empathy when and where appropriate, and lead from that perspective. Enforce the law, but do it with compassion and understanding that these are some of these people's worst days, both the victims and the criminals. I'm all about enforcing the law. We need to get bad actors off the street. We need to get them into a place where they can be held accountable for their bad acts, but we also need to serve the victims and make sure we're taking care of those victims. So that's how I plan to change the culture. Servant leadership from the top all the way down to the bottom, and then which will empower our deputies to serve better in our community and keep us safer.
Marshall, thanks so much. All right, I'm going to turn things over to you. We've agreed on a 2-minute close, so the floor is yours.
Outstanding, Bobby. Really, again, I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to your audience tonight. Again, I'm Marshall Slott, and I'm running for sheriff here in Fort Bend County. You just heard me talk on servant leadership and fixing the culture within the sheriff's office. I'm going to repair and transform our sheriff's office into the premier law enforcement agency that Fort Bend County deserves. I'm ready day one. I hope you could see the anxiousness that I have to get in there and really fix that place. That it's broken. I wish the community could see into it to see how broken it is. We have really great people that work there. It's my strong desire to get in there to fix the culture, fix the level of service, increase the level in service so that we can keep our community safer. I'd like to encourage your audience to go to votemarshallslott.com. That's votemarshallslott.com. Get a little bit more about my history, about my bio, see some of the folks who've endorsed me. Check out some of our videos there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. If I could encourage your audience, if they go there, to like and follow and share anything that we put up there, because it's about spreading the word to our community. We are down ballot races. So my ask to your audience, Bobby, is that each of you reach out and touch, 100 friends by text or email. Make sure they have a plan to vote starting October 21st, and get out there and early vote. We're encouraging folks to vote early so that we can avoid problems at the polls. I hope it's coming through this camera lens that I really want to serve our community. This is my home and has been my family's home since 1955. I want to help protect my family and your families here in Fort Bend County and make Fort Bend County a safer place. Remember, votemarshallslott.com and help me keep Fort Bend County safer with Slott. Thank you very much, Bobby.
Thanks, Marshall. Thanks so much. Friends, that's Marshall Slott. He gave you his information. I'm going to put information for all three candidates in the description on this YouTube video once the permanent video is up there. I encourage you to share it. I encourage you to visit these sites. Next, we're going to bring up Jaison Joseph to give his closing comments. Jaison, are you ready to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bobby, for this wonderful opportunity to speak to the people in Fort Bend. And I'm really honored to be here this evening. And my name is Jaison Joseph. I'm running for Tax Assessor-Collector for Fort Bend County as a Republican. Today, I just wanted to bring all my experience and expertise that I got from my career. I wanted to bring to the government offices, especially in the tax office. I decided to run because I have seen a lot of inefficiencies and the corrupted office practices here in our Fort Bend County. I wanted to step up. I wanted to fix that. I wanted to bring more efficiency and technology and innovation to the tax office. The way we collect the taxes, the way we spend the taxes, and we need to have an accountability and the transparency in the tax office. And under the current administration, we can see there's a lot of issues going on in the hostile work environment, and counterfeit currencies are floating around. Tax money is missing from the tax offices, all under Carmen's watch, Democrat Carmen's watch. So I just wanted to fix it. I wanted to bring accountability and transparency into it and make it more efficient for the taxpayers and all the citizens, and for the businesses to pay the taxes easily. My name is Jaison Joseph, running for Tax Assessor-Collector for Fort Bend County. Please vote. The early voting starts next Monday. Thank you so much. Have a blessed night.
Thank you, Jaison. Thanks, everybody. And next, we're going to bring on Ed Krenek, again, running for the 400th District Court. We're going to hear his closing comments. And once again, we are going to have a link in the description once the permanent video gets up there for all three candidates, all their websites. You can find out more about their platforms, donate, get involved. We could always use some more volunteers. So next, I want to bring up Ed Krenek. Ed, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bobby, and thank you for everyone who tuned into this town hall. I'm a 35-year seasoned trial attorney who's double board certified and who's tried a lot of cases. I would love to bring my expertise and my experience to the courthouse. I believe that there's ways that we can do things better and ultimately achieve that type of justice that we all hope for and want to see happening here in Fort Bend County. I have some, check me out on edkrenek.com, Edward Krenek for Judge on Facebook. I have some videos. I have some other information about me. But more importantly, what I want to communicate to everyone here today is our citizens deserve a judicial system that is fair, just, expeditious, that provides a fair level playing field, and that ultimately doles out firm but fair justice. I'm committed to achieving that. I'm looking forward to being your next judge, again, of the 400th District Court here in Fort Bend County. Please check me out. Please vote early. And if there's anyone that needs to reach out to me, I'm an open book and I'd love to visit with anyone. Just check out my website and reach me through edkrenek.com. Thank you, Bobby, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks so much, Ed. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It's been a whole lot of fun, like I said, going live again. It was great. We did a lot of testing to get ready for this show. It more or less ran pretty smoothly. And I thank everyone for being out tonight. I'm a little busy. I know I haven't been as regular with the 13-minute news hour, which is a show that I love, and I appreciate all the support that all of you out there give. So we'll get through this election. I'll be much more regular, but hopefully we'll shoot for a show for Monday. But until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.